The City Council has returned from our closed session. Mr. Vale, if you could please report out on our closed session.
Mayor, I'd be happy to do that. The City Council had 2 items on its closed session agenda tonight. The first item was an item of anticipated litigation. Council had a briefing from the City Attorney, gave direction to the City Attorney and the City Manager, but there was no other reportable action on that item. The other item was a conference with their labor negotiating team. They received a briefing from their team, and the council gave instructions to their labor negotiator, but there was no further reportable action on that item. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And that concludes our special meeting, and we will actually transition right into our regular meeting. The time now is 7:40. Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Sternquist? Here. Councilmember Yu?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Fish? Here. Mayor Mann?
Here. First off, we have the invocation, and we have the pleasure of having Father Mark Strader with St. Luke's Catholic Church, located at 5605 Cloverly Avenue, who will be providing the invocation. St. Luke's does have an upcoming special event, a wine tasting and dinner this Friday, May 19th, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at St. Luke's Church Hall. Please call St. Luke for more info and tickets. If we could all please rise for the invocation.
Dear wise and loving God, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here this evening. Thank you for your many abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you or the freedom to reject you. Thank you for loving us even so from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for our various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council this evening. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, and personal peace in their own lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them this evening. Please give them an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Temple City. And in this we pray in the name of our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Strader. If we could please remain standing, Scout Troop 161 will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. The Scouts presenting the flags are Anthony Han, Spencer Cheng, Duncan Vergara, Lucas Tiet, and Christopher Du.
Color guard, attention. Color guard, front and center. Color guard, forward march. Halt. Please post the colors. All those in uniform, please salute. All those non-uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Color guard, reform. Retreat. Halt. Color guard dismissed. The audience may now be seated.
Thank you, Troop 161. Moving on to item 5, ceremonial matters. Today we have quite a treat. We have the Temple City High School drumline with us tonight, and we'd like to congratulate them for winning a silver medal at the 2018 Southern California Percussion Alliance competition and receiving the top score of 91.95 out of 15 schools in round 3 of the 2018 Winter Guard International World Championships in Dayton, Ohio. Your dedication and many hours of practice have certainly paid off. And so at this point, I know the drumline has a special treat for us as we like to call each of them up to receive the certificate of recognition. If I could ask my fellow council members to join me in presenting this certificate to the Temple City High School drumline in recognition of the drumline representing the Temple City High School and the Temple City community at the Winter Guard International World Championships. The entire Temple City community is proud of your accomplishments. Congratulations.
On behalf of the 2018 Temple City High School Drumline Corps, who placed 9th in the world, we are so thankful and grateful for our city leaders that support us and back us, and for the many parents who sacrifice a lot of hours to see this group do so well. And thank you, Mayor, and your council members for this recognition. It means a lot to us.
And perhaps I will present the certificate to you on behalf of the City Council to the entire drumline.
And we would love a picture if you guys want to come here in front with us.
Sam, you want to give a shout out to the one who's in charge?
Jason Hilgart, who's the drumline teacher, coach, mentor, and stipend coach, he works for JPL and does this on the side, and he and his teaching corps were unable to make it. So as the band booster vice president, I am accepting this on their behalf and all of these. I think we have about 70% of them here. The other ones that aren't here are probably studying for an exam tomorrow.
As they should be.
As they should be. So if you want to stand up front.
Jerry, how do you want to get us? You want?
Yeah, sure. Let's see if I can say your name, what grade you're in, and what instrument you played, real quickly. Really loud.
I'm a sophomore and I play the violin.
Joshua, I'm a sophomore and I play the xylophone. I'm Jeremy, I'm a sophomore and I play the vibraphone.
I'm Alicia, I'm a senior and I play the violin.
Louder.
I'm Amanda, I'm a senior and I play the violin.
I'm Nathan, I'm a freshman and I play the singing. I'm Lewis, I'm a freshman and I play bass drum.
I'm Charlotte, I'm a junior and I play the marimba.
My name's Brandon. I'm a senior and I play cymbals.
Good, really loud.
I'm a junior and I play bass drum.
Hi, I'm Patrick, and I'm a junior, and I play the snare.
I'm Madison, I'm a junior and I play the tenors. I'm Diana, I'm a junior and I play cymbals. I'm Chelsea, I'm a junior and I also play the snare.
I'm Andrew, I'm a senior and I play the snare.
I'm Jude. I'm a sophomore, and I play drum set.
I'm Max, I'm a freshman and I play cymbals.
I'm Ryan, I'm a sophomore and I play I'm bass. I'm Kevin, I'm a freshman and I play auxiliary percussion.
I'm Dimitri, and I'm a sophomore, and I play bass drum.
My name's Yosti, I'm a senior and I play bass drum. I'm Joshua, I'm a senior and I'm part of the visual ensemble.
All right, thank you.
All you want is your. Oh, well, it's going to be a tough one.
Is that all?
Seniors holding that.
Yeah, we'll stand it back. You guys move forward. Move forward, kind of get maybe a couple of lines and face Jerry in the middle. Yeah, we're gonna get in the back.
Students in the front, freshmen and sophomores, take a knee.
Yeah, how many get taken? Come up, right up here. Right up here. Okay? Get the drum out there, though.
Make sure you guys watch Jerry. Jeff Acey with the camera. Perfect. Put the thing up a little bit higher. There you go. Perfect. Diana, a little bit lower. There you go.
Actually, a little lower again.
Diana.
Actually, let's get him to hold the certificate. All right, we can see everybody's face, which is wonderful.
You guys are number one in the world.
That is great. Thank you.
Make sure you thank the council members behind you. Look at your hand, shake your hands, say hello. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations again. Congratulations.
Congrats all of you. Good job, good job.
Congratulations. Oh, before you let, I wanted to ask a question, but let's.
Oh, wow.
My question was, I wanted to know, would we be able to see them perform at some point? But I'd like to see them actually, maybe it's on YouTube. Or maybe Jerry knows.
All right, that was quite a treat. All right, moving on to the second item, we have the Temple City High School American Red Cross Club with us. And tonight we want to recognize these groups of students for doing their part in representing their school and community. The American Red Cross Student Club's purpose is to develop students into leaders of their community, to teach skills that will allow members to help people prevent, prepare for, and respond to emergencies. The Red Cross Club hosts and participates in blood drives, CPR demonstrations, the Red Hand Campaign, which is child soldiers in foreign wars, fundraising to bring awareness, and give support to areas that have been affected by natural disasters, and health fairs at Temple City Park. This year, their effort resulted in over 40 pints of blood collected during the Temple City blood drive. That's a lot. Which could potentially save up to 120 lives. Fundraised and donated the money towards the hurricane relief effort, and they hosted a preparedness event. So if I could maybe have the members of the American Red Cross Student Club, if you could maybe come up and introduce yourselves at the podium, and we would like to present you with a certificate right afterwards.
My name's Jonathan, and this is.
My name is Megan.
Oh, we're the representatives for American Red Cross. Unfortunately, not all of us could come today, but yeah.
Okay. About how many members do you guys have?
Around 30 in our club.
30? Wow. Okay, great, great. All right, well, congratulations, and if I could ask my fellow council members to join us for a picture, and we'd like to present you with a certificate. And I'll just read what the certificate says. In recognition of the leadership, dedication, and service you have shown in your school and community, the commitment you have shown does not go unnoticed. The Red Cross Club is an extraordinary example for the community.
Out of the way. Get out of the way, will you? Not a problem.
Great, thank you very much. And Mayor Mann, if I may, those of you may recall, this is as a result of our Youth Committee's nomination. They decided they were going to try to recognize one of the organizations every, was it once a month, Peggy, that we decided to do? And so this was their selection this month. So, good job.
Great,
So
great.
thank you for coming.
Great. Again, congratulations and thank you for being here. And so, on a final note, before we move on to public comment, I do want to acknowledge Joshua Sujo, the young man sitting there. Joshua, could you maybe wave to everybody?
All right.
So Joshua Sujo here is here to perform his Citizenship and Community Merit Badge. So he's joining us for this council meeting tonight. So pleased to have you and hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And so we will move on to public comments on items not listed on the agenda. We do have 2 speaker cards. The first is Mr. Steve Stafford.
Mayor Mann, Mayor Pro Tempore Fish, council members. There was a project approved by the Planning Commission at the last meeting last week. I pointed this out to them that Edison's, because there's a back house now going to be on this property, going to need to access the poles near my house that are run between the houses on Olive and the houses on Nadine. However, the owner at 9702 has a bunch of stuff in the alley, and Edison's not going to be able to get back there. And they actually built a little rack for all their garden tools. You know, they got a motor home. There's no way Edison can get back there. There's a easement middle of the alley that runs back to where the back house would be on that project. And there's no way they can get back there. And this is something that I knew was going to happen one day over there. And I've been dealing with the county and the city. Nobody really wants to take responsibility for the alley that was built there as a flood control channel. And, you know, they have a motor home there. Lord knows if there's stuff coming out of there, commode or anything else going in the water. That alley, you know, by water quality laws that I remember when I lived in Newport, is not supposed to be blocked. That water's supposed to be able to go clear through there, go into a storm drain, which actually exists on Olive. And it's not able to do that. Now you got Edison and probably the gas company, they want to get back there to feed that new house, and they won't be able to do it. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Stafford. Our next speaker is Miss Lucy Liu.
Sorry, stood up a little wrong. See, I told you I'm getting there.
Good thing you're with the Red Cross.
Red Cross doesn't help with kneecaps. Good evening. I wanted to remind everybody that our Area 5 Neighborhood Watch meeting is coming up this Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Westminster Presbyterian Church, 9642 Live Oak Avenue. Come, please join us for the delicious dinner and the wonderful topics that we will be talking about. Again, this year we are focusing on marijuana laws, burglaries, and cities talking about disaster preparedness as usual, you know, with all the natural disasters that are going on around us on the Pacific Plate. We have to really focus on being prepared. So it's this Thursday again, 5:30 to 7:30. Courtesy of the city, we do have wonderful meals to provide everybody. 9642 Live Oak Avenue, Westminster Presbyterian Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy. Do we have anyone else who'd like to address the council during this period? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Moving on to the consent calendar item. Before we have a motion for the item, I'd like to pull item C from the consent calendar.
Mayor, may I ask if we pull item D?
Item D? Okay, so we will pull items C and D. So if I may have a motion for the remaining
I'll make a
items?
motion to approve pulling items C and D.
Do I have a second?
Motion, do you have to have a motion to pull? I thought we're just
Or motion
A
to
motion to approve, I'm sorry.
approve
Motion
other
to
than
approve
except C
and
D.
pulling those two.
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fish?
Yes.
Mayor Mann?
Yes. And so we'll talk about, the reason I pulled item C is both Councilmember Yu and I would like to just make a couple of brief statements regarding this item. I don't know, Councilmember Yu, would you like to
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, this item before the council is the approval of memorandum of agreement regarding the administration cost sharing for the preparation of design plans for low reduction strategy projects for the Rio Hondo River and tributaries. In essence, is a way that cities joining other agencies together will share the costs in the design and coming up with strategies to reduce the total daily amount of metals in the or pollutants in our river. In this case, it's the Rio Hondo watershed. The county is a party to this agreement, even though it's really an agreement with the we signed the MOU with the San Gabriel Valley Council of Government. But we just on full disclosure, even though Mr. Vale, our city attorney, had looked into this matter, and he had determined under his analysis that we actually do not need to disclose any conflict of interest. But in the interest of full disclosure, I think both the mayor and I would like to do that. At least for me, I work for the Department of Public Works, and my division, the Project Management Division 2, we're responsible for constructing a lot of the county buildings or structures, and some of which may include, and at this point, I have like 3 or 4 projects actually related to this kind of construction. But they're not in the Rio Hondo watershed, nor it would be my decision or I would not be involved in the decision whether something like that would be constructed. But we just want to make sure that people do know that I work for the county of LA, Department of Public Works, and a decision may be made down the road by somebody else that may or may not involve me or my staff. So.
Can I ask Mr. Vale a question? As president of the COG, I have a seat on the construction authority. So I would be voting on projects that would come forward. Do I need to recuse myself?
You don't have a financial conflict of interest. Under the Political Reform Act or Government Code 1090, you have to have a financial interest in the transaction before you have something that requires you to recuse yourself from participating. Okay. You don't receive any money from the COG other than reimbursement for business expenses, if any, that you have,
Nope.
and you don't have any financial interest in the contract, so
Okay.
you do not need to recuse yourself.
Okay, good. Always want to be careful.
Great. And
Thank you.
Thank you. And do you have another question? Or
No,
we're good? Okay.
no, I'm good.
So I just want to add to Councilmember Yu's comments. For myself, I'm also an employee of LA County Department of Public Works. I am in a different division than Councilmember Yu. My specific job is I'm part of the geotechnical design team that looks at the subsurface of potential projects. So again, the role that I am at, the capacity that I serve LA County, I am not in any sort of decision-making process as to determine whether projects are going to be built or not. That's done at a much higher level, and I simply am a technical staff, so to speak, as part of the design team. So, but like Councilmember Yu said, even though we've consulted with our city attorney about this, we do think in the interest of transparency to fully disclose that fact to the entire public. And so I guess for consent items, I know D has been pulled. Do we approve them one by one?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess if I may have a motion for item C on the
Motion
consent
to
calendar.
approve item C.
I'll second.
There's a motion and second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fish?
Yes.
Mayor Mann?
Yes. And so now we move on to item D of the consent calendar. Councilmember Sternquist?
Thank you. I just wanted to commend Trans Tech for coming out in force tonight. I'm very pleased with their work, but I think one of the things that I just wanted to share by pulling the item is that they care so much about the job that they do, and they all work long hours, and yet they came to the council meeting this evening, and I really appreciate that when our consultants take the time to come out to the meeting when there's something that's even on the consent calendar. So I just wanted to thank you for coming out and look forward to continuing a great partnership with you. So
Well, we don't
thank
know
you.
that yet.
Well, okay.
Baby born yet? No baby. All right.
Baby Axel.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Sternquist. Are there any other council comments?
Motion to approve item D.
D?
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fish?
Yes.
Mayor Mann?
Yes. And we look forward to continuing working with you, and thank you for being at our meeting. So moving on to item 8, public hearing, we have none. Unfinished business, we have none. We move on to new business, proposed revisions to the strategic plan components. We have a presentation from our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Mann, members of the council. Before you this evening is an exercise that we've been going through for the last several months, which includes an online survey that you did individually, not collectively, to get a sense of where you were going in terms of 3 key components to a strategic plan. 1, the mission statement. 2, the vision statement. 3, the values. And a 4th component, the priorities of what the strategic plan are. So I'm going to go through one by one, and we'll talk about what the survey results showed as some consensus that was built. And I'd like to go kind of step by step with each one and see if this is generally where you agree where the mission statement should be going, if you think we were off, you think the consensus that was derived from the survey itself, not the consensus that you have, but the consensus of what the survey showed is reflective of all of those key components. And then we'll talk about next steps. And thank you to staff as well for all the work, including Brian Hallworth, who actually developed the survey instrument and everything else and put all this together. Recommendations for tonight are just to review the survey results as discussed and outlined in the staff report, deliberate and confirm some of the findings for those for a strategic plan update, direct staff on any recommended work plan components, and then with that, what we'll be doing at the budget study session on May 29th, 2 Tuesdays from now, is we'll have kind of 3 things we're going to be talking about. 1, the budget itself, but 2 integral components of that. Our first ever 5-year capital improvement program and these elements of the strategic plan in terms of their actual kind of work items. So with that, why do strategic planning? Well, to do strategic planning is really a best management practice. It sets the priorities and focuses our resources as an organization. And this is truly an organizational type of document that drives from your policy direction down to me, down to staff on what we'll be doing and why we are going to be doing it. It really is intended also to be an accountability tool, to communicate outcomes to the community to what to expect and and a general timeline on when those things should be delivered. And also importantly too, it really tries to align objectives and program efforts with the adopted policies of the council. I'll give you one quick example. You've adopted a policy related to sidewalks. So if we came back and said, well, here's a budget in the CIP that shows you fully built out sidewalks in every aspect of town, it's not exactly consistent with the policy that we developed in terms of the amount of resources we're willing to deploy there. So those are some of the just a very general high-level viewpoint on the strategic plan and why you do strategic planning. So the update process, why update the strategic plan? Well, it's a living document. It sets the priorities, as I said, and focuses our resources and communicates those outcomes. But it provides a process for change. Next slide, please. It provides a process for change and reaffirmation. The strategic plan that you adopted 5 years ago, things have evolved. Projects like the library, updates to the pavement management program, all of those things have evolved over time. And so it's not meant to be a static document. It's meant to be a living document that's changed and reaffirmed. It also sets the upcoming expectation. And this is an important council activity. This is you telling staff and you telling the city and me as the city manager, here's what our expectations are, here's what we're looking to deliver for the community, and here's some timelines in which to do that. So a little more background. So you'll remember back in December that we had a pretty broad discussion and you gave us some very clear direction, which was the driver of the survey. So that survey just didn't come out of anywhere. That survey came from the lengthy discussion we had about what key elements you saw in a mission statement, a vision statement, values, and priorities. Then we sent out the online survey to staff and the management team, as you had asked, and we got back those results. Next slide, please. During the interim of this time, too, and the budget ad hoc will be reporting out a little bit of that today, we found that in developing this revised strategic plan and update, what a critical piece that we were missing was actually a long-term capital improvement program, because we were seeing some of the issues and some of the things that were driving this were really around a CIP, and Brian Haworth gets credit for the CIP program that you saw, that you're going to see in a couple weeks as well. So let's dive into the survey findings. So first, the mission statement. What do we do? So a mission statement really serves as the foundation for the update. Next slide, please. Shows you what we do for the community. It's concise. It shouldn't be too specific. And we went through this discussion before, and it should be easily understood by anybody who does not understand what a municipality does, what we do. They can look at that mission statement and say, okay, I get the an essence of what your organization does. Next slide, please. So there was two options that had equal scores. One which was to provide the highest level of effective and responsive municipal services that meet our diverse population. B, furthering local quality of life through responsive and effective, cost-effective municipal services. There were other, and we allowed in the survey for the respondents to give other alternatives, but I think what you'll see in here is that the essence of what one mission statement over the other really got was the essence of what the others were saying. So there wasn't something that was completely off base from the other. So with that, the alternatives were, three alternatives that were presented were to improve the quality of life for all residents, to provide our diverse community with the highest level of municipal services in a socially and fiscally responsible manner. E, to provide the highest level of municipal services effectively and sustainably to meet the needs of our diverse population. As from the staff's perspective, two more. Also to provide the highest level of service of efficient and effective services. And lastly, we are committed to improving the quality of life in Temple City by providing responsive and effective municipal services consistent with the community's character and values and character. A and B received the broadest consensus. So if you can go back to A and B real quick, Peggy, thank you. I leave it to the council. Was A or B or any of the options making more sense to you?
So I guess maybe before we move on to vision statement and other things, we should have
a little bit of a discussion about that.
Okay. So are there any council comments with regards to, maybe we could go one by one and see what everyone feels? Councilmember Chavez, is there a preference?
Are these the ones that we had choices from?
Yes.
I can't remember which one I chose. Yeah.
Was
All
A and
runs
B were
together.
the most popular?
A and B are the most popular.
A and B had the
Of
broadest
the two, I would say I favor A over B, but, I mean, it's, all wordsmithing is really what it is. You're just changing the words around for different order to me, but, I'm okay with A.
Councilmember Sternquist?
I chose initially E, and I still like it better.
E, okay. Councilmember Yu?
I prefer A.
Prefer A?
Because I think B is focused a lot on local quality, and then we cannot really live on an island. We're part of the greater region, so I prefer A.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
I also like A. I also like E. And I think just because both of them use the wording diverse population, so if I had to choose it, it would probably be A.
A, okay.
It looks like the difference between A and E is the word responsive and
Yes.
sustainable.
There's only two words.
Sustainably.
Yeah, they're not.
Two different words.
Yeah, and I also concur with my fellow council members. I do think A probably fits best with all the broad goals.
So
So-
should we take a vote, or what do we need to do?
It sounds like A.
Sounds like A. A is the consent, or
I'm good with it. I
Do
like
you
it
want to add
better,
the
but-
word sustainable in there, between effective, responsive, and sustainable? I mean, this, so that would capture the essence of E, perhaps.
I'm okay with that.
Either way.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Rather than just say, to provide the highest level of effective and responsive, you would change it to combine the two, effective, sustainable, and responsive municipal services. I have no problem with that
I
either.
don't either.
okay, then we will
Can we do
include
that?
include the word sustainable in A. Add that in.
Okay, great.
All right.
That's the consensus of the council?
Yes.
Fantastic. Moving forward. So let's talk about the mission statement. So what's kind of the difference?
Wait, this
Well,
is- no.
the
That was
mission statement,
vision.
I'm sorry, so the vision statement,
Okay.
excuse me. You've defined, the mission statement defines somebody picking up now, they can see that and say, what are you about? What is this organization about? The vision statement is really about communicating future achievements, where you want to go, you know, what you aspire to be, essentially. But at the same time, trying to be somewhat realistic and have some level of specific aspects of that. So the one that received the highest score overall, there was actually just one in this case, and that was Temple City will continue to be a safe, family-oriented community with a high level of responsive municipal services. There were other contenders. Temple City will continue to be a vibrant hometown to live, work, learn, and play. Temple City will be actively engaged in culturally diverse community built upon family-oriented hometown values. Temple City will be a desirable place to live, work, and play with a high quality of life, safe neighborhoods, and responsive municipal services. Again, I think we would recommend number H, letter H, as the option. I think it gives the best capture in a very succinct way of without being too cliched, I would say. But at least I think it captures some of those things. But and also too, that was clearly had the broadest amount of consensus. So with that, I turn it over to the mayor again.
Okay, so I guess, is there anyone who would object to H being part of the vision statement? No? All right, so seeing no objections, I guess we're all okay with staff's recommendation for H.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. And for the members of the public too, this is not, this is part of a process that's been going on, so this is kind of the distillation and the thoughts that have happened over the last few months and kind of narrowing it down and pinning it down as we get into the budget process. Okay, so the third part of this, in terms of the actual, for lack of a better term, qualitative aspect of the specific plan, talks about your values. What's going to what are the key things that guide you? And so they should support the mission statement, reflect the organizational beliefs as you as the policy, as you give the policy direction to the city and ask me to implement those policies are going forward. It provides, as I said, that implementation philosophy as well, and should be relatable and understandable and rememberable to everybody, so that when we unveil this and we work on this going forward, those are things that resonate with both you as the council, as the policymakers, us as the implementers of those policies, and then down to the community so they can understand, and so that there should be some kind of nexus between all of those. And you developed several that were very consistent with the vision statement and mission statement. So the top 6 responses related to the values, and what will come of this too, when you see the draft, is there will be a little bit of a definition within each one of these, but we wanted to make sure we got what those core values are first. And then there'll be some definition as to those values, right, Brian? Just double checking. So the ones we had before you, or the ones that got the top votes, were fiscal responsibility, integrity, responsiveness, creativity and innovation, excellence in service, honesty, professionalism, customer focus, and diversity. We would recommend that you look at, move forward with items I through R, had the broadest consensus.
I mean L through R.
L through R, thank you. And incorporate components of S and T into some of these value statements. They seem to integrate back into some of the ones that had the broader consensus. So when we have when we write the definitions of those values, to make sure that those components are in there.
I think
Honesty.
integrity and honesty, aren't those kind of the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So you'd like to combine
So you
those?
can pick another one.
Well, you can pick one of the two. I would pick integrity over
Me too.
honesty. I mean,
That's what I picked.
integrity includes honesty, I think.
Okay.
I would just eliminate honesty.
Okay.
So that gives you down, we're looking for 6, all right?
You can pick 6 or you can pick them all. We were just suggesting that the other
say,
twos
why
that
is
had
it
some
6?
votes can be integrated as part of the definition.
You know, I was thinking about diversity and stuff, and I don't know that that's necessarily a value. It's what we are. I mean, we certainly are a diverse community, and we build on that, but I don't know that it's necessarily a value as it would be some of these other things. I don't know. I mean, that seems like just what we
Unless we
are.
add something like a qualifier, like respect diversity or.
Yeah,
something
it's like
that,
diversity
you
is
know.
not just a
It's
value.
just,
It's like, what are we gonna,
yeah.
it's what we do with it. It is what it is.
Embrace.
We are diverse.
Embrace.
So I don't know that
Or
it necessarily would be
value
a,
diversity or something.
Embrace
So that could probably be built
Did you say what?
into.
Embrace.
embrace diversity.
Embrace.
Or leave it all on.
Well, I don't, like, I don't even think we need to have it in there. There's no
Okay.
question that we are a diverse community, and that's not gonna change, and we build upon that diverse community with all the other things that we've already
And I think
gone forward with.
like professionalism, excellence,
What is
that would
tenure?
include
Whose fault? That's your fault. It's not mine.
that would include the embracing or valuing or respecting diversity. And
Well, yeah,
those are
all these
embedded
values
in
really
there.
go, you can say go
Yeah.
towards diversity. I mean, can be used towards diversity, so.
And also,
I-
diversity is in the mission statement.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I mean, yeah, so
So
I,
as a value, I guess I would agree.
I would just
That's
eliminate.
probably not,
Okay, so we're
not
gonna get rid of
necessary.
honesty and diversity.
So just combine or eliminate honesty.
honesty,
Honesty
diversity,
and diversity.
yeah, customer focused,
Integrity.
That sounds strange when you say we're going to eliminate honesty.
eliminate honesty. I didn't really mean that, but.
You said it, Vincent.
It's on the record.
I said it, yeah. Ooh, that was a tough one. Yeah. Customer focused, I mean,
That could be part of professionalism.
yeah, or even
Could
fiscal
build-
responsibility too, I mean, but I don't know, that seems to be too.
It could be part of responsiveness too.
I think that was one of the things where we saw.
Yeah,
that-
responsiveness, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the response, and actually the survey responses too, that was kind of tied together.
Tied together.
So we'll make sure that's kind of part of what we do there.
Yeah, you can combine N and S easily.
Priority.
So it looks like we'll not eliminate honesty, but since integrity is there, we'll take those 6 at the top
Mhm.
and then integrate customer focused into one of those.
Responsiveness.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay with council?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. Sounds good.
Well, thank you for that so far. We've that was a combination of a lot of work for the last period of time. So thank you for that. So we got a good portion of what we wanted done on that part, which will be again, it's the more qualitative component of the strategic plan, but it gives us a sense of who we are and what we want to be. So the next steps we're going to take for the next few minutes is really going to be about talking about some of the key priorities. So, and the other step will be something that we're going to talk more about during the budget discussion on May 29th. But this will at least give us some framework of some of the things that we've already kind of developed from a budget standpoint, but want to reaffirm with you as the council. So
Can I ask you a real quick question?
Sure.
I can't remember, maybe refresh my recollection about why it's over the next 3 years rather than the next 5 years or 2 years. Because I know the budget, we're looking at the next 5 years.
Well, yeah, I'll briefly explain that. So we've developed what's traditionally known, what's traditional is to create as a 5-year capital improvement program. So 3 years was thought about back before we actually thought about doing the CIP program as well. So this could go out a little bit longer as well, but what we really want to be able to do is at least nail down kind of what are from a programmatic standpoint, what are the things we're going to continue with, how can we improve them, those kind of things over the next few years.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with it. I'd rather see these things get done and then set new priorities. That's what you should be doing anyway. That's fine. I just couldn't remember the thinking.
Yeah,
behind it.
I mean, 3 years is, it's not that it's an arbitrary timeline, but it's, it's a movable timeline.
Right. Right.
Just to keep us kind of focused on what's really potentially achievable. And, and you'll see under this. So if you move forward with the priorities, the 6 priorities that were selected as keys for the next few years is essentially, and you'll see on another response with like keeping our community safe. With the programs that we've been doing thus far and doing some enhancements to those programs from the public safety law enforcement side. Then some of the items got ties, economic vitality, and revenue generation. And
What is that? What's that? I had a question. What's REV? What's rev generation?
Revenue?
Revenue generation.
Oh, revenue generation.
Yeah, but the idea of looking towards economic development as providing increasing the economic base, and thereby producing more revenue.
I'm curious, what was number 1?
Safe community was number 1 throughout.
Oh, is it listed in order?
Priority.
Yes, this is actually listed. This is listed in how the responses came back. Tied was also with that was infrastructure and facilities. So and you've taken some steps with that most recently. So talking about the work we've been doing with our payment management system, things like we did just Temple City Boulevard and a few other things that we've been doing, and a long list of things. By the way, the ad hoc has seen this, but you're going to see in the CIP a large unfunded list of capital improvements that are mostly infrastructure related, that do not have funding sources. We have not identified those funding sources, but you're going to see the things that we can achieve with what we know is funding, and you're going to see a very large list of items that are unfunded. And that are critical. They're not pie in the sky. They're not just things we want to do. They're things we have to do. The other items you had was downtown revitalization, accountability and transparency, and accountability and transparency. You're continuing to provide effective and efficient services. If I can add one element to that, as we will go into the budget discussion, we are barely balanced. Very down to the penny. And part of the reason we are, as compared to some other cities around us, is because we provide a very effective model of providing services to the community through a contract model. And we just want to continue to affirm that that's important to this council, that's important to you in the delivery of service, to do that in an effective and efficient manner. And that includes things like we're doing with our programs too, with your Moon Festival. We went and partnered with another entity that's bearing 90% of the cost of providing that service. I think that's something important to consider from at least in hearing from the council, that that's what you want to continue to see and continue for us to strive for.
And Mr. City Manager, maybe I will just add that today we approve an agreement with TransTech, but that's for the building safety services and public works engineering services. That's one of the other ways of contracting and controlling and containing cost.
Absolutely.
While providing good service to our residents.
Thank you, Councilmember Yu. That's a great point. And continuing down that effort and kind of reaffirm that for us is very important. And then the community community programming and events that we do was one of the key priorities for the council. Other priorities were financial stability, community engagement, employee development, and sustainable development. So with that, yes, sir.
No, the only issue I had with these priorities is I don't want it to appear that, let's say we pick 6 priorities, that means automatically we're going to completely ignore the others. Because, for example, I think we're all concerned and aware of employee development, financial stability, all those things. It's not like, I just don't want it to appear that by selecting 6, we're just forgetting about the others.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it is a priority list and things that we're going to look at, I guess, in the next 3 years, but at the same time, I don't want these things to just drop off and just disappear entirely, or I don't know if that's going to happen. A couple of thoughts, when you have economic vitality and revenue generation, that I think kind of includes the downtown revitalization. I don't know that downtown revitalization is a separate entity unto itself, because they're kind of intertwined, I think, with each other. Obviously, one of the keys of revitalizing downtown is to address these economic vitality and revenue generation issues that we have. It's kind of hard to knock off any of these others. Obviously, I think safe community is always priority 1 in most communities, especially communities such as ours. Obviously, we always have to have infrastructure on our minds, facilities, transparency and accountability. We've preached that for the last 9 years, right, Vince?
Yeah, absolutely.
We remember how they were when we didn't have that stuff, and certainly even more today that you need that. Some of these can kind of, I think, be kind of like we did above, kind of try to mold them together. But, I mean, it's a good list. It's kind of hard to knock off any of those things, really, to be honest with you. But I guess we have
Mayor,
to.
I have a question.
Yes.
Brian, was there a reason why we asked them to pick 6?
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Was there a reason why we asked them to pick 6?
It was just an effort to
10?
when
I was just
doing
wondering.
the survey was just an effort to
Manageable
kind
number?
of get people's thoughts on, and at least each individual respondent, just to have them think about trying to, for lack of a better term, prioritizing the priorities.
But it wouldn't be the end of the world, in other words, if we had 7 priorities.
No, not at all. You could do all 10
For
if you
good
like.
luck, maybe, I don't know.
You could do all 10. It doesn't. That's fine. There's no set rules when you do a strategic plan per se.
Yeah. I think Councilmember Chavez' good point. I think we can probably look for and staff's recommendations that we try to work some of these priorities together. For example, going to the point of employee development, for us to provide efficient and effective services, we have to have good staff, right? So we can work that into that item. Financial stability is definitely should be part of economic vitality and revenue generation. So we can probably work them in as one.
Community engagement and community programming, those are kind of,
right, yeah,
can be similar. The thing about that, we do that very well already.
Yes, we do.
I suppose we can always get better and make it a priority, but I don't see that ever not being a priority in our city. And so, that's something that can maybe be include many things rather than just events or something like that, because
Yeah.
we're always going to be doing events. We have a very proactive Parks and Recreation department, obviously, that takes care of that for us.
And sustainable development can be incorporated into potentially economic vitality.
Correct.
Or infrastructure, I should say, infrastructure and
Right.
facilities. So, yeah, that's a lot of good comments, and perhaps what I'm hearing is we have 7 priorities and we incorporate the bottom 4 into those 7.
Right.
Yeah, if we can.
If we
I'd like
can.
to see that.
Does that sound good?
Okay.
Councilmember Sternquist, we haven't heard from you. Do you want to add anything?
No.
You're good?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll take the 7 and then incorporate the bottom 4,
Okay.
the
Great.
other 4 into it.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, next steps. No action related to next steps, but just kind of a preview of the 29th. So you did give us specific programs and initiatives that you're looking for. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. For as part of the council, as part of the budget discussion, many of which we've already done an effort of integrating into the budget. Some of which there are some new programs that you've proposed, and with a budget that's balanced, it will be there will potentially be some trade-offs that we need to discuss there. But we have that list as well. That was an attachment. But that will be part of when we get a little more specific with budget discussions. You can go down to that level of specific elements of programs.
Mr. Cook, on the 29th, it's from 6:30 to 8:30?
Yeah, we'll need the full 2 hours, Councilmember Yu, on the 29th.
In the council chamber?
In the council chambers, public is invited.
Public is
It's
welcome.
open meeting for everybody to hear what our projections are for the next 5 years. Again, I would not describe that we are not in a crisis, but we have to be very diligent and prudent moving forward, and that relates to any new programs we do or anything like that. But we
So
are
it's
not.
not 7:30, I just want to emphasize it's
Yes,
6:30.
yeah, we'll start at 6:30 because we will probably need the full 2 hours to get through. So, with that, Mayor Mann, that's I think we've gotten consensus from the council as to that. Thanks to Brian again for all of his work on pulling a lot of this together, and that's it for us. I think we got the direction we needed from you tonight, and then we'll finalize that part of the document and be ready for your discussion on the 29th. And the 19th, we'll have the final update pulled together for the council's approval.
And so just for clarification, the June 19th, it'll be kind of similar to the previously adopted strategic plan. We'll have a separate document that kind of finalizes and formalizes all this discussion?
Yep.
Okay.
And as I've talked with our interim admin services director too, we really want this tied to the budget so that there's a very clear nexus. While there'll be separate documents, you will be able to kind of tie both together the strategic plan and the budget in a more direct way than we were prior.
Good. Yeah, and just on that point, if council might remember, during budget discussion of 2015, 2016, we had an inclusion of the current strategic plan elements that was tied into different elements of the budget. But again, I guess what we've learned is that there were so many items, and I think the discussion that we had tonight kind of focuses in on something more manageable, and like Councilmember Chavez said, we should set certain high priorities, finish those, and then reassess the strategic plan at a later date. So I think we're doing a good revision to the strategic plan as we move forward. So I just want to thank you and thank the rest of staff, especially Brian Haworth, for really spearheading this and helping council, reach this point to update the strategic plan. So thank you very much. Are there any final council comments? We're good. Do we need a motion for this based on the discussion that we had? Or?
I
think it's always good practice when you're given direction to staff to.
Receive and file. I'd make a motion that we receive and file.
Receive and file?
Second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Chavez?
Yes.
Councilmember Sternquist?
Yes.
Councilmember Yu?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fish?
Yes.
Mayor Mann?
Yes. And so that concludes new business. And so moving on to communications, we have none. Update from our city manager.
Mayor Mann, I've talked a lot tonight, so just a couple quick things. Library, it continues to move forward. We had a meeting with county staff recently and working through some issues, but things will be progressing. We'll be coming up with some clearer timelines on deliverables relatively soon. We're having another meeting in June as well to discuss those things and start to define some more deliverable timelines with them, but things are moving forward. On the legislative front, there's a lot of activity, and Tinny Chan will be pulling together in the next month or two a list and probably some. And we usually don't take where we don't ask the council to take position on legislation unless it has truly a direct effect on us. But there is some legislation that's coming down the pike that's going to have some really direct impacts on the city. So you'll be seeing that coming from law enforcement to how the city collects revenue to some other issues that are coming down the pike. So that'll be coming down shortly. So that's it for me tonight, Mayor Mann.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Update from our city attorney.
Mayor and council members, I think at the last meeting I indicated I was going to go to the city attorney's conference. I did. It was wonderful. I also have a list of things that I want to update you on, but I think what I'll do is coordinate with city manager and his staff about what things they're going to update you on and some of the things I learned at the conference, and I'll come back in 2 weeks and give you a little tighter presentation on a few of the more interesting aspects.
Great.
Does that can include AB 54? Is that the one?
Only if you want.
Okay, I didn't want to. Yeah, those are issues that are out there. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to council reports regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. Is there anyone who would like to report beside? I know we have the budget ad hoc. Is there anyone else?
No, we didn't have a school board meeting.
Okay.
That was
It was postponed.
that was postponed.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess Mayor Pro Tem will start us off, and
Yeah.
maybe I'll.
Before I get
jump in.
started, I do have a question. Can you remind us what the commissioner recruitment timeline is? I've just totally
I'll let the city clerk
blanked on that.
give you an update.
We're doing interviews next Friday.
Okay.
And
then-
we will make recommendations shortly thereafter. And I believe the goal is to, depending on what the recommendation from the ad hoc is going to be, will be to get them in place by the end of June, correct? Or first meeting in July.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay.
Just there's so many dates.
Yeah.
I start, and because I'm not on that ad hoc. Sure, I'd like to give a just kind of overall on what we discussed at our budget ad hoc. First of all, it was very informative, lots of information. I have to compliment staff, Brian, and of course our financial department. They did an excellent job. It was, I'm not sure if all of our council members have been able to see the draft. It's much different than anything I've seen before. It's very easy to read. It's very easy to find things. Every single item is explained in detail where it originated and the effects of it, and of course the five-year forecast. So I wanted to give staff a little shout out for that because I thought it was, like I said, I thought it was great. We are hoping after our May 29th discussion here, and we just went over when it's going to be here at 6:30. We're hoping to have it back to council for approval the second meeting in June. I'm not sure if you wanted to go over specifics. I was just wanted if you wanted to.
Sure.
As far as the 5-day, I keep saying 5-day.
5-year.
5-year forecast. Also, there were some things brought up as far as lighting district, some potential ways to alleviate that debt that in the past we have kind of gotten used to it being there, and it's not going to go away. I think they came up with some excellent ideas on to bring the deficit down. That was one thing. And then what was the other? Can you think of, what was the other thing?
Well, I guess related to, well, I guess there will be some tough policy decisions on the landscape
Exactly.
lighting district as to how we exactly want to bring that down. And all of that kind of ties into all the other items such as, I mean, the 5-year CIP that Mr. Cook had mentioned in our previous discussion also highlights essentially a wish list of stuff that we can or cannot do. As Mr. Cook mentioned, a lot of these items do not have an assigned funding source. And a lot of these could be considered deferred maintenance costs on our,
Correct.
not just our infrastructure like pavement, but also facilities like our Live Oak Community Center. So we won't go into specifics on that, but we'll
Right.
leave that for a discussion. But it kind of reminds me of, I alluded to this when we were talking about the senior master plan. And I had brought up an exercise in one of the community academy that we did a couple years ago. And the Parks and Rec department basically laid out a bunch of items that a lot of people ask for, that they want to see the city contribute to or build, but each item has a price tag attached to it. And so in order to get a balanced budget, or in order to not further dip into reserves, because that's certainly another choice that we have, is to go into reserves, we have to kind of draw a line somewhere, or make some sort of policy decisions to determine, all right, how far do we go? What are our priorities for spending X amount of dollars here and there? So I agree with Mayor Pro Tem that it's an excellent document, very easy to read and understand. And the 5-year CIP is especially impressive just because we've sort of tried to do that in the past on a shorter duration, but I think this one really highlights, like for example, we have certain funding sources, new funding sources coming in, like Measure M, SB1. These are like transportation-related bills, and so we had a discussion about what can that be used for, what can it not be used for, and so all these moving pieces kind of have to come together somehow in order for us to have a balanced budget moving forward.
I know for myself, a lot of my questions were answered just from the document. And I think that was really good, because now I can go home and study the document and not having to be asked, what's the funding source? What are we looking at? It's right there, right in front of you. And yeah, it's, like I said, it was very complete. I was very happy with it.
And I guess I will add one more point is, in that discussion, we also talked about the rising costs of benefits. So retirement benefits and things
Correct.
of that nature.
Correct.
So that's also highlighted, and I know the budget ad hoc had suggested to our city manager to include that as a portion of the discussion for May 29th.
So sounds like we have a lot of tough decisions to make on the
Yes.
coming sessions.
Certainly, yeah, because we can't do everything that we want, basically, as much as we would like to. So we certainly look forward to that May 29th discussion, and we totally understand why you say we might need the full 2 hours for that. So.
Absolutely.
All right, so if there are no other reports, we will move on to items separate from the regular agenda. We'll start with Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you. Last week I had the opportunity to attend our executive committee workshop for the JPIA. Usually what happens at those workshops is that the executive committee will meet with staff and discuss what's happened in the past year, what kind of projections we have for the coming years, and of course, discuss and set policy and program changes. Interestingly enough, this year, we discussed several different issues that we haven't already discussed that have been hot topics amongst the cities and stuff, such as homelessness, PERS, increase in PERS costs, marijuana issues, things like that, that the authority really has never gotten involved in. And the question was, of course, do we need to get involved in that, and how do we help the member cities? So that's something that they're going to be taking a little bit better look at. Also, of course, continue with the education requirement, or educational opportunities that the authority offers, and more importantly, as far as we're concerned, how to reduce the cost to the members. So some of the things that I'll talk with Brian about some of the changes that are being proposed, and how they can help the city. And more of that information will be provided at the July annual meeting of all the board of directors that they have every year. And so continue working on, the authority likes to be more proactive rather than reactive to a lot of things and get ahead of stuff. So very good group of people, very, very smart, much more knowledgeable in these things than I will ever be, but get to learn a lot and go into these things. So it was a good workshop, and those of you hopefully will be able to attend the annual meeting in October, which will be held in Carlsbad this year. So I know a lot of us have gone in the past. So more information on that as we get along, and programs start changing and things. I'll bring that to the attention of the council.
Can I
That's
ask Tom a
Yeah.
question? Some time ago, JPIA had sent out an informational pamphlet, if you will, electronically. And one of the things, it's probably been about a year ago, they were working on was not just an academy for new officials, but they were working on having an academy for like veteran city council members.
Right.
Have they moved forward at all with that, Tom?
There was some discussion on it. There still will be. They're still considering it. When that's going to happen, I don't know, but it's still on the table.
Oh, good.
And
I think it would be
I'm
enjoyable.
actually a proponent of that. I would like to see that because, and I think it's just a matter of where we're going to put it and how we're going to do it. But yeah, I think that's going to happen.
Okay.
All right. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next, Councilmember Yu.
I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Sternquist.
Yes, I have a couple of things that I wanted to bring to the council to see if you might be interested in considering. Recently at the SCAG conference, of course, besides homelessness, the major focus is on transportation and mobility, and specifically building suburban mobility programs in each city that hopefully we can, for example, in the San Gabriel Valley, use bikes to connect with Monrovia, or Monrovia to come to Temple City and maybe have, lunch at the Camellia Square. But one of the programs that is really neat, and Oliver Chief from Monrovia was at the SCAG conference, and we sat and chatted for a while, and he was telling me about 2 new programs that they have in Monrovia, and I want to share those with you. And he sent me an email today with some of the program information for each one of them. But recently there was a Ciclovia event that I attended, and it was so wonderful. There must have been, I'm going to say, at least 8,000 people out riding their bikes, and it was a great event. And they had these bikes that you could, just by signing up and you gave your ID, they're called Lime bikes. I don't know if any of you have
Are you
seen
talking about
them.
the bikes they have like in Pasadena?
I don't know if theirs are the Lime. I think they have Metro.
Yeah, we have Metro. in
You have
Pasadena.
Metro.
Yeah.
So the Lime bikes are more in the San
Lime, like
Gabriel.
Lime?
Because they're lime
Oh,
green.
okay.
They're very bright lime green, and they're called Lime bikes. And it's a Lime bike program, and it's very cost effective. It doesn't cost the city anything. And where they put this bike rack of maybe like 10 or 15 bikes, where it's somewhat like a credit card. You just put it in and it releases and the bike comes out. They put them like it would be in for example, the Kmart shopping center, or Ralph's parking lot. So they put them where people go frequently. And I'm not sure what the fee is to the bike renter. Would you know, Brian, by any chance?
$2 or $2.50 an hour.
So, and you can leave it in another,
You can leave it anywhere, actually.
anywhere, which is pretty cool. So if you wanted to
No, you
ride a
can't-
bike.
Anywhere.
Not just anywhere, you can't just like
There-
drop it off
there-
in the corner.
No, yeah, but there's designated
Yeah,
areas.
there's
The
But you can
designated
leave it by-
bike parking.
Right, so you could leave it at my house.
Leave
You
it in
could-
a park.
But
Leave it at
I'm
home.
just going to read you some of the bullet points because I wasn't very familiar with the program, but he sent in it. It says, they established an ordinance that allows them to limit the number of companies that would operate a bike share program. So maybe Metro might want to have some, or Lime Bikes, you might want to have both in your city. But they limited the amount. They initially deployed 200 bikes in Monrovia, but it was so popular, they had almost 1,400 people sign up the day it went into effect for the people. And they average about 81 rides a day, which is a lot of rides in their city. So that's one item, and if you're interested in that, we can have someone from the Lime Bike Program come and give us a presentation on, see how we can make it available to our residents. But this is awesome. They have done a public-private partnership with Lyft, and it is so cool. Through this partnership with the Lyft, they've developed a model of providing public transportation in Monrovia. Under the new program, the city continues to operate their Dial-A-Ride shuttles, which pick up those who have ADA needs. Anyone who does not have ADA needs is provided with public transportation services through Lyft, and it's only 50 cents a ride. So it's the
Yeah,
same
but-
cost as
but only
Dial-A-Ride.
in the city, though.
It's
They're not gonna
with-
take you from Monrovia to Pasadena.
No, it's within your city.
Yeah.
And you can go to a couple of designated spots, like Monrovia will let their Lyft drivers in the program go to Santa Anita Mall. And if we, with our Dial-A-Ride, go to Home Depot, I believe, and we also go to Santa Anita, and a medical doctor's office within a certain mileage, like in Arcadia maybe, or Pasadena. Under the overall program, every ride costs only 50 cents, regardless of whether Lyft provides the ride or the city shuttle provides the ride. They worked with Metro, and they shared that they can utilize their Measure M and Measure R local return dollars to pay for the Lyft subsidies, which is amazing. Furthermore, Metro has indicated that they can use their Prop A local return dollars for the Lyft subsidies as well, pending an additional review by Metro staff. The Lyft program has been tremendously successful in Monrovia, and they have had more than 4,000 people sign up for the program. On average, they are running about 500 Lyft rides per day. Previously, we were providing about 100 Dial-A-Rides rides a day. So,
Is it more cost effective?
yes.
That's amazing.
Even
And
with,
how long has this program been going on?
I think they've had it now maybe 5 months, but it only took them from the time they learned about it to implementation was 2 months.
But if it's such a successful program, how come no one's ever heard of it? I've never heard of it.
It's the first.
Has it been?
It's the first in the area.
I think recently, because SCAG has been focusing on this mobility, and they've had USC, UCLA, Davis come out, everybody has been doing transportation studies built around housing, and all of that has stirred up, like, if we're gonna get people from one place to another, we can't go on the freeways. They're so congested that
Because
we need
I know
to.
with the Pasadena bike program, it started off really, really well, but
Oops, sorry.
has since kind of not been doing so well, for various reasons. They're losing a lot of bikes and people just aren't using them, but I don't know, maybe like anything else, it's new, it's, but I don't know. I don't know if it's a different program than Pasadena. Maybe Pasadena
It is a
more
different-
expensive. I think Pasadena is not cheap. They're like, I don't know how much they are, but
But the Metro program is actually a city-sponsored program as well, so the city actually has to enter in an agreement with
Yeah.
Metro and cover a lot of the cost, which the Lime Bike is a different type of arrangement.
and they have, I mean, I think they have too many. They're like on every corner.
Well, the bike is separate from the
Yeah,
public
right, it's
partnership
bike, yeah, of
with
course,
Lyft.
yeah.
But it's, even with the increase in ridership, overall program costs have remained about the same, as our per-ride subsidy on Lyft is around $5.77. And it was nearly $20 a ride under the dial-a-ride model.
How does Lyft make any money on this if they're only charging 50 cents for ride?
Well, from
And
what
who's
I've-
getting the money?
The
From-
city would
The city would
subsidize it.
subsidize.
It's subsidizing it with the same funds you're using from your
Did they say
dial-a-ride
how much they had
program.
to subsidize it with?
Well, it's $5.77 is what the per-ride subsidy on Lyft is. And it
So
used
about 5 1/4 then.
$5.77, closer to $6.
No, but they charge 50 cents, so.
Oh, okay.
Take away
And
that.
it was nearly $20 under the dial-a-ride.
So the city would call the Lyft person, the user does not need to have a smartphone.
You would need to have some type of phone to call, I would imagine, the Lyft driver.
But
Yeah,
I
if
imagine
it-
some of our seniors may or may not have.
But they would
use a
still be able
smartphone.
to take the dial-a-ride.
It basically
They have
offers
both dial
offers
ride, I
options.
guess, and Lyft.
Yeah.
I would really like to discuss this more, get more details and see if it's something good for our.
I mean, I'm just thinking of the times that, like, you know how convenient it is to call and you get a Lyft driver and they're
Yes.
there. You have dial-a-ride, you're waiting for them to go pick up 4 or 5 other people, then you're
Correct.
left at your doctor's office, and then you have to call again, and maybe you stay another 2 hours with your dial-a-ride. So you can potentially have a 4 or 5 hour dial-a-ride visit to a doctor or to where you're going. But say I wanted to go visit Nan, and for some reason I couldn't use my car, I could call Lyft, they're there in 2 minutes.
Or you could
Take
ride
me
the
to her
bike.
house, or I could ride the lime green bike. But I just think it's, I mean, from 100 people to 500 Lyft rides, and it's not costing you anything else. It seems like it's another way of making transportation easy and convenient for your residents.
But based on those numbers, if you said there's 500, did you say how many? 500, how many
They're running 500 Lyft rides per day.
per day? But then, and that's costing the city $5?
Well,
for
we're
each
paying
ride?
20 before.
So if you multiply that times 500,
575, 577 a ride for how many other days you have.
and that's what costing, that's the city subsidizing that, though.
That's correct.
So that's a lot
the-
of money.
Well, but you're paying more with your dial-a-ride subsidy going out at $20 a ride, which isn't as convenient or as direct for residents. I think one of the biggest
Is that what we
complaints.
pay? I don't know how much we pay.
Well,
here,
they're
don't-
20, I'm
Yeah.
assuming
what
it's
ours is.
probably similar. But don't forget, you're able to use your Measure
But they didn't do
R,
away with their dial ride. They still have their dial ride.
because they have ADA.
Yeah, for ADA.
They have ADA, but it definitely is something I think to think about.
That rise in the hundreds and $200,000. It wasn't a low cost.
No, I think we were at 300, Vince.
Yeah, $200,000-$300,000 city funding, yeah, every year.
That we paid. But, one of the great things, like, when you go to these conferences is you get to learn from other people and what other cities are doing. But I think we can even ask Oliver, I'm sure he'd come out and talk to us, Brian, about how successful the program's there, but if you're interested in having
Absolutely.
some more information on it.
Well, Councilmember Sternquist, while you're on that topic, maybe if I could add 2
Sure.
points to it. So I'm also intrigued by the program, but there were 2 key points that Oliver Cheed also made for proper context. I guess he focused a lot on the idea that, one, you're not getting rid of your traditional dial ride. What you're doing is you're providing residents with more choices. So there may be a situation where Lyft is more convenient.
But you're still paying for the dial ride.
I think I don't know the details, but I believe there was some sort of adjustment or to the arrangement of the Dao Ride contract that allowed them to essentially reduce the cost of the Dao Ride to then kind of cover the subsidy of the lift. That's my understanding, but of course it'd be better if we looked more into it. The second point is the way that the lift program works there is the people who sign up for it get a promo code on their phone. So when you're calling the lift, you enter the promo code, and instead of being charged your traditional lift fee, you get charged the 50 cents per ride. Right. So that, I think, if I remember, that's how it worked.
Oliver also mentioned that the Lyft drivers prefer to stay in their area because they're making so many shorter trips. They're actually making more money as a employee of Lyft than if they would drive from one destination, leave someone off, and then wait for a call for someone else, because they're getting so many rides per day. So I think it's intriguing to see how we could partner maybe with them.
And another really important point I thought was they are doing this program as part of a way to mitigate for roughly 2,000 housing units that are going into the city. And so one of the questions that came up during their public comment period about this is, well, traffic's already so bad, there's congestion, you're increasing density, you're doing all these things. And so they tried to address and mitigate for that by saying, okay, now this is how we alleviate parking, how we alleviate congestions along this corridor. So I thought that's important for context too, because they're not just doing this out of the blue, they're doing it specifically to address a mitigation.
Okay. And then I wanted to share with the council that last year we did the Hometown Hero program with the LA County Fair. They are no longer doing that program anymore. They're doing something that's called the Big Yellow Bus, and it's about $6,600 to participate in that. So a lot of the cities in the San Gabriel Valley have decided to not participate.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah. Anyway, but I was thinking that we could possibly do our own Hometown Hero and maybe tie it in with our 4th of July concert in the park, because we usually do.
Are we doing what are we doing? Are they doing like a
Well,
4th of July?
I mean, I don't know if we're still doing it, but every year, the Wednesday before the 4th.
Concert, and then it's always like, if it's not on 4th of July,
It'll be the red, white, and blue.
It'll be that theme.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that might be something that we could pick up and just do it and just tie it in with the concert, and if you'd like to, discuss that further too.
I would even propose that if we're gonna do a hometown hero, we do it more than once a year,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
We have a lot of heroes in town that we
we
can
do.
recognize.
And we the other thing is, we used to have a Citizen of the Year. We don't have that anymore. We had that for years.
I don't remember.
The chamber
remember
did. The
doing
chamber did.
Oh, Chamber did one, but
Yeah.
it wasn't a city.
No, but the city, we were involved in it.
So similar to our Senior of the Year, but
It
this was
was,
just Citizen.
Yeah. What is it? What does the chamber do now? They do something I can't remember. But yeah, Citizen of the Year is no longer.
They do a community person or something. They call it Community Person of the Year or something. But I think other than that, that's it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, I just have one thing. This Friday morning, of course, I don't have a time, our Sheriff's Department is going to be having their memorial run along Las Tunas. Usually, they don't give us an approximate time. Brian, have you heard of anything?
I'm looking at the email right now.
I haven't gotten anything from the sheriff.
They didn't notify.
I'll get something out.
I
from the
just found
council.
out. But just for anybody who's listening out there, they do it every year. They run along Las Tunas. I believe, do you know where they run to?
They're starting the first leg approximately at 11:50 a.m. at the parking lot at the Temple Station.
Okay.
And it should take them about an hour or so from there to get through to along Live Oak and parts of Las Tunas to Irwindale.
Okay. So I just wanted residents to know that they will be closing the street just as the procession goes. But if anybody's along Las Tunas or anybody's in businesses or owners of businesses, if they can maybe just come out to the street and support our deputies.
How come we haven't gotten anything on that?
I just got something yesterday, so I'll get it out to you.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, real quick, I'm sorry. Sure. I have on my calendar a color run on Saturday.
It's on mine also.
No, that's a
We're not
mistake.
having a color run, are we?
No, we're not.
Oh, okay.
Are you still getting things that have Mr. Polito's?
No, I don't think I got anything.
I get mine.
I do.
You do?
I've been trying to cancel them, but
Me too.
I
I
couldn't
don't-
delete them.
Somehow, my calendar has reverted back to 4
Yeah, I'm
years.
sorry, you just brought up calendar things, and I thought, well, wait a minute, before I forget.
But I did get the
I've been
color
seeing a
run,
color
too.
run on there for a week, and I've been meaning to ask, and I forgot all about it.
Yeah, it's on mine
we're
too.
not
Good.
doing
Yours
color run.
too?
It's on mine too.
Okay.
All right. Well, is that all you have?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Just a couple quick things. I probably should have brought this up at the ad hoc standing portion, but now that we have a formal contract in place for plan check services, I think it's probably good practice for us to do a little bit of housekeeping and just kind of look at the plan check process in general. I know a couple of years ago we had done something through one of the standing committees related to fees and things like that, but it might be a good opportunity and good timing to kind of just look at how we can improve our processes and how we can better serve our customers in the future.
Well, if I could just throw in that, just second that, how we, our plan check and inspection services, I don't know if the rest of the council know, we only do that 4 days a week, even though City Hall is open for 5. So that's something that perhaps we can look at with the new contract, how we can perhaps better improve our service to our constituents.
Right. Yeah, and I believe Mr. Cook is aware of some of the, I guess, aware that this is probably a good practice for us to just kind of revisit and maybe bring back for council's consideration if there's any recommendations, etc. Next, both Mayor Pro Tem and I had the pleasure of attending the 50th Miss Temple City Ambassador Program. It was on Saturday, right?
Yeah, I know. It's a blur.
Everything's kind of blurring together for me. But it was fantastic, and I just want to give a shout out to the new Miss Temple City, Megan Lee, and also a shout out to the outgoing Miss Temple City, Christy He, for participating and being and representing us so well. So I really think we should support that program whenever we can.
I have a question. Do we ever recognize them?
I think we do. I'll double check.
Yeah, if that's a good idea. I think we should.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, maybe we could invite
I'm sure
them
we
to.
have in the past, and we haven't
haven't
for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe we can check with them to invite them to one of our council meetings, and
Especially
we can.
Miss Temple City. I mean, don't you think we should be doing that?
Yeah. Well, Miss Temple City and the four princesses of the
and her court.
royal
Of
court.
We bring the little queen or king.
Well, yeah.
And just one final thing, we do have a, let's see, we do have a luncheon for our Older American of the Year, Carol Rodenbucker, coming up on Saturday, May 26th, and it will be held at the Live Oak Community Center at 2 p.m. So please join us for that. And again, we talked about the budget study at May 29th, and please come for our law enforcement meeting on Wednesday morning of May 30th. That's the last Wednesday of every month. And we've been getting pretty good attendance and a lot of good information, and we appreciate the community's input and participation in keeping our community safe, just like our strategic plan now says. So moving on to reimbursement of expenses, we have none. We will recess to the successor agency, to the Temple City Community Redevelopment Agency meeting. May we have the roll call, please?
Yes.
Agency Member Chavez.
Here.
Agency Member Sternquist.
Here.
Agency Member Yu.
Here.
Vice Chair Fish.
Here.
Chairman.
Here. Consent calendar.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So motions and a second. Any objections? Seeing none, it carries. Unfinished business, none. New business, none. Communications, none. Public comments, none.
Lucy? Oh,
That's for
Lucy?
that's for the successor agency. So don't worry, we'll have another public comment. Update from executive director and agency council, none. Matters from agency members, none. And we are adjourned back to the regular agenda. Additional public comments, Ms. Lucy Liu.
What is wrong?
Hi, me again. Two things. I believe, Mayor Mann mentioned Community Academy. It's actually Citizens Academy, but I want to find out if we are, I know City Manager Cook talked about bringing that back this year. So once we do have a schedule set, if you could please share that with us, because we would love to promote it at our Neighborhood Watch meetings and any other public events that we do. And also through our Neighborhood Watch. The second thing is, as a member of the recently dissolved Senior Master Planning Advisory Committee, yes, please look at the lift, because that's one of the, mobility, transportation was one of the top priorities that we agreed on, and partnering with organizations such as Lyft was one of the things that we did talk about, but we didn't know about this thing that Maruvia was doing, and it sounds wonderful. It offers more flexibility. So we were looking at it from a senior standpoint, but obviously this can work for other people with needs, but it is definitely something that we did prioritize as part of our senior master plan. So please, please, please take a look into it. Thank you.
Maybe we should contact Uber and get a better deal. No Uber? Is there a different?
They have such a bad reputation.
Really?
I think they're more Lyft around here than Ubers.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't drive either one.
All right. Are there any additional public comments? All right, seeing none. Before we adjourn, I'd like to adjourn this meeting in memory of Matt Cooper. And I want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Fish for bringing this to my attention. Matt graduated from Temple City High School in 1992. In high school, he was an outstanding trombone player and lead in the high school musical his senior year, and also helped conduct the high school choir. He also participated in football and judo, just to name a few sports. After high school, he joined the Navy and continued his music at Pasadena City College. He married Michelle Cooper in 2001, and they have 5 children. And Matt was also the worship pastor at First Baptist Church of Temple City for 20 years. He was also an avid baseball coach in Temple City's Little League, with all of his sons participating. And he will be deeply missed across the city. And so I would like to adjourn tonight's meeting in his memory.
Thank you, William.